Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV. We're going to take you through a new RV orientation on this 2020 Sportsmen LE 333 KBLE. Starting right here at the front of the trailer where you've got your propane system. To access your propane valves, you can open up the flap on the top of the cover, or you can just remove the whole cover to access the bottles themselves. Here you've got two 20-pound propane tanks. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switch-over propane regulator. With this regulator, you can see the little red sight glass there indicating that there's no pressure flowing from the supply bottle. If I open the valve on the supply bottle, that sight glass will go from red to clear, indicating that there's pressure in the line. What we recommend is having both valves open. Then the regulator will deplete the supply bottle first, then automatically switch and start to pull propane from the reserve bottle. When that happens, the sight glass will turn back to red. You can switch the regulator over to the second bottle, and you can remove the first bottle to go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. Behind the propane bottles is where you'll find your batteries. And this one has a battery upgrade. These are dual 12-volt deep cycle RV batteries. Here, we'll open both of these up. And you can see you've got two lines coming from the trailer, a red positive and a black negative. Red positive going to the positive terminal of one battery, and the black negative going to the negative terminal of the other battery. The batteries themselves are also jumped positive to positive and negative to negative. This is a set of 12-volt batteries wired parallel. They're flooded wet cell batteries, so we recommend some maintenance on these batteries. Once or twice a year, you'll want to pop all four of these caps off and check the level of the fluid in the cells beneath the caps. If any of the cells look a little bit low, and especially if you can see metal plates sticking through the fluid, you'll want to top that up with some distilled water and put a good charge in the battery. We also recommend removing these batteries for winter storage, storing them inside somewhere where they're not going to freeze, and if possible, putting a charge on the batteries once or twice over the course of the year, of the season. Beneath your batteries, you've got a battery disconnect switch. So it's in the on position right now. You can turn that over to the red position to disconnect the batteries completely. For now, we'll leave them connected. Here at the front of the trailer, you can see you've got stabilizer jacks in all four corners. So once you've got the RV parked in place and relatively level, you crank those jacks down to be snug with the ground, but we don't want to actually lift the trailer with them. So just to take some of the side-to-side motion out of the trailer. And here in the front storage compartment is where you'll find your power cord. It's a 30 amp power cord, and many of the RV sites will have 30 amp power available. For those that don't, we also supply a park adapter to break that down to 15 amp power. A couple of crank handles in here. This larger one hanging on the wall is to crank your stabilizer jacks. The smaller crank handle is to crank your power front jack should you ever need to. You can manually crank the front jack by removing the cover from the top of the tank and cranking from here. Also in here is where you'll find your quick connect propane line. This is to hook up the Capital Grill stovetop in the outside kitchen. We'll see that in a few minutes. Right here is where you'll dump your holding tanks. So you've got two valves, a larger black valve and a smaller gray valve. Whenever you're dumping your holding tanks, always dump the black valve first. That's your sewer tank. And then once that's finished draining, you can close that valve and dump the second valve, the gray valve, That'll use your gray water, your sink and shower water, to flush the contents through the sewer hose so that there's nothing left in the sewer hose when you have to disconnect and put it away. Also, when you're dumping that black valve, you can hook a water hose up to here. This is your black tank flush. This will spray out the inside of that black holding tank and spray off the walls of the tank and the monitor probes to keep your monitor panel reading accurately. Right here is your hot water tank. You can access the back of your hot water tank by opening the cover. This is a gas electric hot water tank, so it can run on propane or electricity. To run the tank on electricity, you'll have to have this little black rocker switch turned to the on position. There's also two reset buttons on this tank. If the tank was ever to overheat, you would pop these ECOs, energy cutoffs, and you'd have to come out here and press these to reset the system before it'll start up again. This is also where you'll drain the water from your hot water tank by removing the plug from the bottom. It's a 1 1/16 inch socket, and on the end of that plug is a rod about this long. It's your anode rod. And the function of the anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank from corroding. So it can get quite corroded and pitted looking, and it does need to be replaced every few years. Depending on the quality of the water, typically every 3 to 5 years you'll replace that anode rod. Before you pull the anode rod out, make sure to bleed the pressure off of the system using the pressure relief valve so that it doesn't spray. Here you've got your furnace exhaust. Only thing to be aware of here is this gets very hot. So if you've got young kids around the trailer, make sure they know to stay away from that. And this is your freshwater system. So you'll fill your freshwater tank from right here. This just fills right into the tank. And we recommend using a white, non-toxic drinking water hose for that, rather than just your conventional garden hose. You can also hook the hose right up to the city water connection if you have pressurized water at your site. If you're going to hook up to city water, we recommend using a water pressure regulator, just a little brass piece about this long that goes on the end of the hose to maintain a consistent water pressure in the water lines and ensure against overpressurizing the lines. Your fresh tank can be drained from right underneath. See the valve to drain your freshwater tank. So open that valve to just drain all of the water out of the tank. Right here is where that 30 amp power cord attaches. Here is the vent for your fridge. This can be removed to access the back of the fridge for cleaning or maintenance or repair, but mostly just a vent. Unlikely that you'll need to get in there very often. The fridge just needs a little bit of air circulating to work properly. Here at the running gear, your tires are inflated to 80 psi, and we do recommend running them right at 80 psi. We've also torqued your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds, and we recommend periodic retorquing of your lug nuts. If you don't have a wheel wrench or a torque wrench, just use a wheel wrench to make sure they're nice and tight. You'll also want to make sure that you have a wheel wrench along with you while you're traveling, because should you ever need to change a tire. We also recommend periodic repacking of your wheel bearings. This trailer is equipped with Easy Lube axles, so if you pop this center cap off, it'll expose a grease zerk. You can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. Now, greasing your wheel bearings doesn't eliminate the need to repack the wheel bearings, but it does prolong the intervals. So instead of repacking wheel bearings every year, maybe you do it every 3 or 4 years. Your sewer hose is stored inside the rear bumper, and your spare tire rides right here on the back of the trailer as well. It's also worth pointing out that the trailer doesn't come with a jack. So a good idea to have a wheel wrench with you that fits your lug nuts, and a lot of people like to carry a jack with them as well in case you need to change a tire on the front. Here's the outside kitchen. Your fridge in the outside kitchen is electric only. It needs to be plugged into power to work. It doesn't use propane like the inside fridge. And your capital grill pulls out, and you'll need to use that quick connect propane line that we found in the front storage compartment to connect this. So right underneath here is a quick connect. The hose goes onto there and connects right to this quick connect underneath. There's a valve on the quick connect that'll need to be open in order for any propane to flow. Here at the entry door, you have your solid step entry step. So to put the step down, just pull the lever and fold the step down. These legs are adjustable in height. If you're at a very unlevel site, you can adjust those legs as need be. And we'll go ahead and run this awning out. So your awning is controlled from the central control panel just inside the door. And if we press and hold the extend button, the awning extends 8 feet. You don't have to extend it the full 8 feet. If there's another trailer in the way or a tree or something like that, you can stop the awning at any point. This one is a height adjustable power awning. So you can pull down on this lowest arm to lower one corner down. We recommend leaving one corner lower than the other so that you can control where the rainwater drains off of the awning. Before you retract the awning, put both arms back up to the full height to ensure that the canvas rolls up straight on the roller tube. Come on inside, and I'll show you a few more things. Just inside the door on the control panel is where you'll run your slide outs from. So to extend the slide out, press and hold the out button. This is a flush floor slide, so you saw it sink down a little bit as it started to move out, and then it's going to move out 3 feet. Once it reaches the end of its travel, you'll hear a ratcheting sound, and you know it's all the way extended. Same thing with the second slide out. The second slide out is in the rear bedroom, and you'll always want to, before you bring that slide in, you'll always want to just visually inspect that room to make sure that there's nothing in the way, because you can't actually see that slide moving while you operate it. You should hear the same ratcheting sound when it's fully extended, just like so. And the third slide is the master bedroom. Some more things here at the central control panel. This is where you can check the level of your battery in all of your holding tanks. So you can see that our fresh tank still has about a third of a tank full of water in it from when we did our inspection. Our battery is completely charged. Black tank is completely empty, and gray tank is completely empty. The monitor panel also shows black 2 and gray 2. This particular trailer doesn't have a second black or gray holding tank. It's just a universal monitor, so disregard black 2 and gray 2. This is also where you'll activate your water pump. If you're operating on water from your water reserves, you can turn the water pump on to pump water from the tank. And this is where you'll activate your hot water tank. If you're plugged into power and want to run your tank on electricity, you can turn the bottom switch on. Remember, if you're running the tank on electricity, you'll need to also have the black rocker switch on the outside of the tank turned on. And to run the tank on propane, if we press the propane button, the red light showing fault comes on. That shows us that the burner is not burning right now, but if we wait just a second, we'll hear that light up, and the light will go out, just like so. Now, if for whatever reason that light didn't go out, or if it only went out briefly and came back on, that's when you might check those two black reset buttons on the outside of the tank. Right next to the monitor panel is your thermostat. So this controls both the heating and cooling systems for the RV. To run the air conditioning, you'll need to be plugged into 110 volt power, which we're not at the moment. So if we turn that over, to turn the system over to cool, the air conditioner is not going to kick in unless we were plugged into power. If we turn the system over to heat, then we can use the thermostat to set a temperature that we're comfortable at. The furnace fan comes on immediately, and in a couple of seconds we'll hear the DSI spark and then burner light up. And we should be able to hear that when it happens. Just like so. So now if we give it a few minutes, we would have warm air blowing from our floor vents. Once the trailer comes up to temperature, or you shut off the system, exact same thing happens, only in reverse. The burner's gone out immediately, but the fan's going to continue to run for another 30 seconds, up to a minute to go through its cycle. The other switch is for your fan speeds. The air conditioning fan has low and high speeds. The furnace fan has only one speed, so this switch is not used for the furnace at all. Just turn that off for now. Right here is your propane and carbon monoxide detector. So this will do three things. It'll alert you to a potential propane leak, or if you had a propane leak, you would almost certainly smell the propane before the detector goes off. It could alert you to a carbon monoxide situation, in which case you wouldn't smell anything. Or the third and most common thing that it could do is alert you to a low voltage situation. If your RV battery gets a little bit low, this will beep periodically, just like a smoke detector does when its battery is getting low. So if this starts going off, it's not necessarily anything dangerous. It could be something as simple as a low battery. Here at the kitchen, you've got a 3-burner propane stovetop, and all 3 of these burners can be lit using the piezo sparker. And we always recommend, when you refill a propane bottle or have your propane system disconnected for any reason, the first thing that you should do is come in here and light all 3 of these burners. Once you've lit all 3 of the burners, you know you've bled the air off of the propane system, and you should have no problem starting up your automatic appliances. Your oven also uses the piezo sparker. So to light the oven, turn the oven knob over to pilot and push in on that pilot knob, and then the oven will light right down here, and you can use the piezo sparker for that as well. Once you see that pilot light, continue to hold down on the oven knob for a few seconds, and when you release that and the flame stays on, you can turn the oven up to temperature and it'll light the burner. Once you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back down to pilot and just leave the pilot burning, or you can turn it all the way off and relight the pilot next time you need to use the oven. Your fridge is an automatic gas electric fridge. So to turn it on, just press the on button, and recommend that you always leave it in A for automatic mode. In automatic, it'll check for electricity first. If it has that, it'll always run on electricity. If it doesn't have electricity, like right now, it'll light the propane. You can override the automatic mode to only run on electricity or only run on propane, and you might find that the fridge cools a little faster on propane than it does on electricity. But having said that, it still takes several hours to cool the RV fridge down, so we recommend getting it started and cooling the day before you load it up so that it's nice and cold when you load your food into it. To shut the fridge off, press and hold the on button. Right below that is the power converter, and this is the power center for the entire trailer. So you'll find fuses for all of your 12 volt circuits and breakers for all of your 110 volt circuits. We recommend having some spare fuses with you when you're camping. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse. So if you have some spares with you, it won't be a big deal if you ever have to change one at the campground. Your stereo system works on 12 volt power, so no need to be plugged into power for this to operate. It's AM, FM, Bluetooth, HDMI, USB, and auxiliary. And there are 2 speaker zones. Zone 1 is the inside speakers. Zone 2 is the outside speakers. So just make sure that you've got the correct speaker zone active when you're listening to music. And here in the bunk room, each bunk bed has its own bunk light, 110 volt power there for charging devices, and emergency exit window here in the bunk room. So with this style of emergency exit window, it can be opened for ventilation. If you need to use it in the event of emergency, it'll hinge all the way up. Pull the screen out with the red tab. We pointed out the propane and carbon monoxide detector. You also have a smoke detector here. The smoke detector is not wired into the RV's electrical system. It has its own 9 volt battery. So you want to test that periodically just to make sure that the battery hasn't gone dead. And here in the bathroom, only a couple of things to cover in here. You've got a notable power outlet. It's your GFI power outlet with a test and reset button on it. In an RV, your GFI is wired in series with several of your other power outlets. So if you're ever plugged into power and can't figure out why you have no power from your outlets, come in here, press the reset button. Everything should go back to normal. Whenever you're using your RV's sewer system, you want to make sure and use a good potent toilet chemical in the holding tank. To add toilet chemical, open up a package of toilet chemical, pour it into the bowl, use the foot flush, push halfway down to fill the bowl with water, and then the rest of the way down to dump the whole works into the tank. You'll want to add chemical immediately after every time you dump your holding tanks. So when you finish dumping your holding tanks, come in here, add a new charge of toilet chemical, and you should be good until the next time you need to dump your holding tanks. In the master bedroom, not very much to cover in here. You've got another emergency exit window there. And you've got a second TV backing location here. There will be backing inside this wall for the second TV. The backing is metal, so the easiest way to find the backing is with a magnet. Make sure if you're going to mount a TV here, or same goes for the TV location in the other bedroom, make sure you don't use any screws longer than 1 inch. The wall's only 1.5 inches thick here. I think for the most part that covers it. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2020 Sportsmen LE 333 KBLE. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer, or you can check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks.